This is going to be an introduction to NFTs on the Bitcoin Cash blockchain. So NFTs stand for non-fungible tokens. This is going to be a really high level overview, and it's going to serve to answer these top three questions of what are NFTs good for, how do they work, and I'm going to compare and contrast non-fungible tokens on the Bitcoin Cash and the Avalanche and the Ethereum blockchains, and a little bit of the differences. So I'm going to start very high level, very non-technical. That last question I'm going to get a little technical on, but for the most part, this is going to be an introductory video. And so before I start, this is a QR code, which will take you to this page on GitHub, a gist with the links to all the other web pages that I'm going to show in this presentation. So if you want to scan this with your phone with a QR code scanner, it'll take you to that web page with links to the other web pages. So let's start with the first question. What are they good for? What are NFTs good for? A lot of people I've seen scratch their heads around this. There's a lot of misinformation and just bad assumptions. So I'm going to share my experience of really digging into NFTs from the technical side over the last year. And I'll start with OpenSea, which is the #1 website for buying and selling NFTs. And if you go to their website, for example, here is probably the most popular NFT right now, the Bored Apes, which is a category called profile pictures. So people buy these particular NFTs to create a profile picture on, say, like Twitter. And it's that exclusive, what they're buying is the exclusive record of ownership on the blockchain. These are just pictures. You can right click and save these pictures, and no one's trying to restrict access to the pictures. This is probably the biggest and most important stumbling block with NFTs that people have, is it's not, in some cases it is about restricting access to the content, but in the cases of art, it is usually not. It is usually not about restricting access to the high resolution artwork. It's all about the ownership, that exclusive ownership proof on the blockchain, which doesn't really get you anything. A lot of people really struggle with that. If you're not buying exclusive access, then what are you buying? There are cases of exclusive access, and I'm going to cover those. But just understand that some of the most positive, most lucrative for artists use cases are not about restricting access to the artwork. So I'll cover that in a little more detail here. Well, actually, that's the first thing on the list, so I'm glad I'm talking about that now. Let's look at some of these other categories on OpenSea. So that was in the collectibles. There's also like trading cards, and this gets to video games. There's photography, music, all sorts of things. And ultimately, the artists are getting supported at the end of the day. And that's really the takeaway. That's one of the reasons why so many artists have gravitated towards NFTs, is at the end of the day, they're being supported, and they're making money producing their art. And that's their goal. And the fact that it doesn't necessarily lead to exclusive access, like if you buy a physical painting and hang it on your wall, you're the only person that has access to that painting. That's what we're used to. But in most of these cases, it's not about restricting access to the artwork. It's just really about supporting the artist. And you have that exclusive sort of on the blockchain. I own this NFT. I am the one that supported this artist. It creates a very intimate relationship between the artist and the people who buy their NFTs. I'll cover in a little more detail how these NFTs can be used as homing beacons. So artists can like bestow gifts on the people who buy their NFTs. And so there's all sorts of secondary benefits to these NFT owners, and it's also about makers, like people who make content, like video content on YouTube, or photography, or clip art, or any type of maker who makes content, written, image, or video, or fine artists that we usually use with art. These are all finding a home here. And the interesting thing is that almost all of them are not based on exclusive access to the art. I just mentioned the profile pictures. That's a very commonly talked about use case of NFTs. I think the up and coming thing that we're going to see over the next year is game and virtual reality items. And this is where you do get into exclusive content. Like if you have a piece of furniture in your virtual house that's an NFT, you have that specific piece of furniture and nobody else has it. And that's where the exclusivity with these NFTs really come into play, is in these natively digital use cases. And so that's very much video games and VR worlds. And one of the things I'm going to cover in this video is how do you track like a video game character that changes over time with a token on the blockchain that's immutable. That's been a very hard nut to crack, and I've cracked it with some of these NFTs on the Bitcoin Cash blockchain. So I mentioned before that NFTs can be used as a homing beacon. And so if you say you buy an artist NFT, maybe once a year, she can airdrop NFTs to all of the people who have bought her NFTs. She doesn't need to know who you are. She has your address on the blockchain, and that's all she would need to send you this airdrop. And it might be a little thank you note or a little thank you piece of artwork. Another idea using the same technology would be like a musical artist who say releases 12 tracks, one track at the beginning of the month, and maybe they only sell 100 NFTs. So there's only 100 people get to listen to this exclusive content. They don't need to know who actually has the token. All they need to know is they can look up the address on the blockchain and airdrop the music track to the holder of the NFT. They don't need to know anything about that person. And this can be done, these tracks, like in the example of a music track, each copy could be watermarked and encrypted, end-to-end encrypted. And then the person holding the NFT would be able to retrieve them. This technology exists already in the PSF, and we've experimented with it. So this is a new use case that is not really out in the wild yet, but I hope to see it grow. Some other use cases of NFTs, a POAP, a proof of attendance protocol. This is actually a website you can go to, poap.xyz, and I've been in meetings where with the Shapeshift DAO, I've attended meetings, and everybody who attends the meeting, they scan a QR code and they get to claim their proof of attendance NFT. And so they're just kind of a fun, nice collector's item. It's a little bit of incentive to show up to the meetings, and then you can prove that you're there. It's kind of like a merit, showing your merit that you have this many proof of attendance tokens. So it's a lot of fun social experimentation right now, and this definitely falls into that category. Another thing that I want to share with it is that because these NFTs are a stake in the ground on the blockchain and they're recorded in an immutable ledger, they become really, really good for documenting history. And that includes fact checking and whistleblowing. So right now it's May 2022. There's a war in Ukraine. There's a lot of misinformation on both sides. There's also a lot of handheld phones with cameras. If it was easy for people to record something and then put it on the blockchain so that it's immutable and censorship resistant, and then later on everybody has the ability to view that information and make decisions for themselves to fact check things. Could be a way for whistleblowers to get information out there. As I'll show some of the video NFTs that I've made in a minute, it uses a combination of blockchains. It uses the Bitcoin Cash blockchain to create the token, but then the content is on the Filecoin blockchain, and it's backed up in multiple locations. So you're using this multiple blockchains that are all censorship resistant in different ways to solve these censorship issues. I'm just basically documenting history. The average internet web page has a lifespan of 100 days. And so that we need to improve that. Okay, so that's several examples of what NFTs are good for, different things that they're being used, either actively being used for now or on the cusp of being used for. And again, video games are the big one. There's two companies producing NFTs on the Bitcoin Cash blockchain for video games. So let me get a little more technical. I'll descend one level deep into the technicality and just explain how NFTs work on the Bitcoin Cash blockchain at a high level. So there's, again, this link in the gist that you can follow, but let me just walk you through that. So this is a visual representation. So everybody's, most people watching this will be familiar with a non-fungible token, an NFT, but they'll probably have never heard the term group token before. And this is unique to Bitcoin Cash. In Bitcoin Cash, you create a group, a group token first, and that's like a stem cell that hasn't specialized yet. And then you specialize that by burning it and creating the actual NFT. And what this does is it sets up a cryptographic relationship between the NFTs and the group token, is like a parent and a child. And when you look up the group, you can find all the children NFTs. And when you look at an NFT, it'll point back to its parent group token. And so the way to think of this is, like, you might have a group token for concert tickets, and then one of the NFT is row B, seat 24. Or you might have a group token that's paintings, and one of those NFTs is the Mona Lisa. Or a group token called Trout Videos, and one NFT, which is this video. And that's what I'm going to do with this video after I'm done recording it. And let's see. So that's the relationship of group tokens and NFTs in Bitcoin Cash. It's a little different from other platforms. So how do you actually use NFTs? So for sending and receiving NFTs or other tokens on the Bitcoin Cash network, you can use wallet.fullstack.cash. This is what it looks like. I've got some of these tokens in my wallet. Here is a token with a token icon. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, on how you can create tokens and add token icons. This is another example of a wallet with an NFT. This is one of my test NFT videos. And if a token does not have an icon, it shows up with these automatically generated icons. And to create and mint NFTs, there's no good non-technical web wallet like what I just showed to create NFTs. You have to know a little bit of JavaScript, but there are these examples on GitHub under the Permissionless Software Foundation. There's a repository called BCH JS examples. These are JavaScript examples. There's an NFT folder, and it's got examples for how to create NFTs, how to create group tokens, mint new group tokens, burn the group token to create an NFT, sending NFTs like to your web wallet that I just showed. And there's this video site on the Permissionless Software Foundation website. It's psfoundation.cash/video, or if you click on the menu, you can go to video. These videos, they start easy at the top and they get more technical as you go down. The top row is just regular bi-weekly meetings that we have. But these first beginner videos will show you how to use wallet.fullstack.cash, how to work with tokens and NFTs. So that's how you create and mint NFTs. Mutable data, I want to talk about that. That's these token icons. So mutable means changeable, and immutable means non-changeable. So when tokens are created on the blockchain, they're immutable. They can't be changed. The data can't be changed. And so there's this tough problem of how do you track, like a video game character that changes over time with an immutable token? How do you track supply chain things over time? How the product might move through the supply chain? Well, I've been working with a company called Launchpad IP, and who wants to solve this problem for intellectual property. And we have jointly created the SLP Mutable Data Library. It's a JavaScript library. And what it does is it applies some code to the normal token creation process. And this is what a test token looks like. Here's the icon for a video that I made. There's the immutable data. So this is data that cannot change up here at the top. And then there's mutable data, and this can change over time. And so if it has a property called token icon and then a link to an image, the wallet.fullstack.cache will detect that and render the token icon. And then there's and so the owner of this token, they might sell the token, but they'll retain the ability to change this data, and so they can change the token icon at any time. And so that's sort of a new innovation. So now these tokens can track video game characters over time, or like sword item stats. And they can also be used as a certificate of authenticity. So say you're an artist or a maker and you sell an NFT, maybe a piece of artwork or a profile picture. Well, you can now retain the ability to update that mutable data, and that can be your certificate of authenticity. So for example, if you have a contract that says that secondary sales need to pay you 10%, that's how you can enforce that, because when they come and they want to be recognized as the legit owner, you get a certificate of authenticity on the blockchain, the artist has the ability to update that information, and that's their opportunity to collect that commission when they update that data. So I think that's even more compelling use case for artists. And then that combined with this exclusive airdrop capability I talked about earlier is pretty exciting. And then finally, I'm working with the Permissionless Software Foundation to create this decentralized exchange, and that's at dex.fullstack.cache. So this is where you can buy and sell NFTs on the Bitcoin Cash blockchain. If you go to dex.fullstack.cache, you'll get this warning saying that it's just a demo, you can't buy anything, and takes you to links. This is brand new. It's really JavaScript developer only at this point. But you can see the tokens that are on. If you click this button to continue, it'll take you to a demo of the DEX. So this is a live version. These are the tokens that are available for sale on the DEX and their prices. But the take button has been disabled, so you can't buy or sell because this DEX is not like a .com website that you go use like a normal exchange. This is software that you would run on your home computer, or probably a Raspberry Pi little mini computer. That's actually the target hardware. And that lets you trade permissionlessly peer-to-peer with no intermediaries and no third-party reliance on any software. So you're completely sovereign, and no one can stop you from buying or selling. And this solves one of the important criticisms against NFTs on the Ethereum chain, and I'll get to that in a minute. So actually, that's a good segue. So let's talk about NFTs and how they compare to between Bitcoin Cash, Avalanche, and Ethereum. I think the most stark difference is the price in transaction costs. So on Bitcoin Cash, it's actually less than 1/10 of a cent, but I just rounded up to 1/10 of a cent. But yeah, it's around 1/10 of a cent to mint and send NFTs. On Avalanche, that's around 14 cents. So that's still not bad, but it's significantly more expensive than Bitcoin Cash. And then on Ethereum, I just sent a token transaction and it was $10, and that's extremely low. I'm used to seeing transaction fees closer to $50. And I know that a lot of the NFT sales, they were averaging around $80 just to send the token from one point A to point B, like to buy it. So transaction fees, especially for business use cases here, are critical, and that is probably one of the most attractive reasons to use Bitcoin Cash is the low transaction fees. And as I said, there's already 2 companies that are building NFT games, and they're just loving these low transaction fees. So I want to point out Moxie. So I'm going to do some criticisms now, and actually, I think the best criticism I've seen is Moxie Marlinspike's critique of NFTs on Ethereum. And so Moxie Marlinspike was the CEO of Signal. He's a very, very well-respected hacker in the space. And essentially, really need to read this, but the cliff notes is he created a token, an NFT, and he's to point out, to emphasize one of the flaws with NFTs on Ethereum, or at least how they're typically have been done. There's fewer being done this way, but it's a URL. So whoever controls the computer at the end of that URL can change the content. So on Rarible, which is a place where you can buy and sell NFTs, it showed up as the image on the left, or in the middle. Now on OpenSea, it showed up as the image on the left, and then when the person actually bought the token, the image changed to the poop icon, and OpenSea did not appreciate this, and they censored the token, which is interesting because that's not supposed to be possible. That's one of the whole reasons to use blockchain, is it's censorship resistant. And so what this all showed was that between OpenSea, MetaMask, and Infura, those are really, if any of those three companies have a bad day, the entire Ethereum network goes down, essentially, effectively. And there are things like censorship of NFTs, if OpenSea doesn't like what you're selling. So it just really scratched under the surface here and showed some pretty major flaws. Whereas tokens on Bitcoin Cash are totally permissionless. There are very bright lines between what you can do and what you can't do, and there's no way to censor someone from creating or sending or receiving an NFT. There's just no way to do that. And I don't have very many criticisms for Avalanche, honestly. They have a great NFT system. It's a little complex and engineered, but then again, everything in the crypto space is, so that's not really a criticism. But let me show what it looks like. They have wallet.avax.network, and you can create a wallet here. And they have a NFT creator studio. And while that's coming up, the very last thing I want to cover in this video is bridging blockchains. So there have been quite a few bridges built for fungible tokens, particularly between, say, like Ethereum and Avalanche. And one way that there's basically two ways to build a bridge for NFTs, to move an NFT from one blockchain to another blockchain. One is where you burn the NFT on one chain and have it minted on the other chain, which is not reversible. Or you wrap it, where you have a custodian essentially hold the NFT on the one chain and create a representation of it on the other chain. And then you that is reversible. You exchange the synthetic token for the real token in order to bring it back to the original blockchain. So those are really the two different ways to bridge NFTs. That's a common question I hear from people. Okay, so to go back to Avalanche, you can go to collectibles, and it gets pretty complex pretty fast. There's families, and then there's collectibles within families, and there's these different types, a generic type or these three custom types. And so I love and I hate this, because I love it because it lets an engineer get really specific with the use case and the type of data they want to move. But I kind of hate it because these, right there's like 4 or 5 things that I would have to explain to somebody in order to let them use it effectively. And then, so that's just a little bit of the complexity. And that's reflected in the block explorer when you look at the data. And I'm actually building a DEX for the X chain. We're going to fork the Bitcoin Cash DEX over there. And we ran into an issue with NFTs specifically because they're handled by the node just differently. You can't really mix NFTs with other types of tokens. getting a little more technical walkthroughs on how to create your own NFTs for JavaScript developers.